All right, we are live. Welcome again to our fourth LinkedIn Live. We are Codingscape, and we're hosting a series of live technology talks with the humans behind the machines at Codingscape. As I like to say, we've got mad skills for mad projects. That's modern application development. Thanks for the smile, Jay. We want to get real with technology and product leaders about building software, growing senior engineering teams, and making technology choices. During our sessions, we skip the jargon, move past the pressure of the meeting rooms, and dissolve office politics so we can get straight talk directly from our software development teams and share insights that will make your development decisions easier. I'm your host, Lauren Carris. I'm a product and learning leader at Codingscape. I've spent the last few years developing people, teams, and products. I love building experiences that help people access their passions, which is why I'm really excited about our guests today and the first time that we're doing two guests. Our guests have taken the idea of empowering people to unlock exclusive access to the products they're actually passionate about. Please join me in welcoming our special guests from ExpertVoice and Codingscape, who worked on a special project together. Adam, could you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you, Lauren. So I come from ExpertVoice, and generally, so the best gear for consumer gear deserves the best advocates, right? That's where ExpertVoice steps in. We connect 900 plus top brands with knowledgeable experts in everything from golf to fitness and everything in between, fueling honest product advocacy that consumers trust. Experts on our platform get exclusive perks like discounts and insider access, while our brand clients get advocates who really know their stuff, testing their products and sharing that out with the world. I'm a director of engineering at ExpertVoice. I've been here for almost 10 years, and through 10 years, I've worked on almost everything we do. So there's a lot going on. So kind of what I mentioned, so we have a lot of brand clients, and they all use a lot of different e-commerce platforms. Everything Shopify, Magento, Salesforce, the list goes on and on and on. And with all those platforms, we want to have technical integrations with those so we can get catalog data, product data, order data to best serve our clients. And of all those platforms, Shopify by far has the most market share. It's something like 30 to 40% of our clients are using Shopify. So that kind of poses that problem. Like, we want to use Shopify. We want to build integrations with Shopify. We don't want to invest our own development resources into it. So that's where Codingscape came in. We reached out to Codingscape. We're like, hey, we have this problem we want to solve. Shopify is huge market share. We want to build these integrations. What can you guys do? Codingscape pulled in some Shopify like awesome talent, experts in the field. Jay is one of them. Dug into our problems, gave us a whole list of solutions of like how we could tackle these problems, and worked through us to really build an awesome product that we were able to get developed, spun out, deployed to our clients really quickly and super successfully.
That is awesome. I have been on the consumer side of ExpertVoice through connections in the ski industry, and definitely shopped around and loved the experience. I think feeling like you're an insider and you have this exclusive access and you're getting a really good deal is all part of some really great value proposition that not just ExpertVoice, but I'm sure in the development process with Shopify, is part of what you're doing. And having worked with a lot of entrepreneurs and really great business idea thinkers, I know Shopify to be one of the top, identified platforms to just get started and try stuff out. So I can't wait to ask you all the questions. But Jay, let's turn to you and tell us a little bit about you, what kind of work you do with engineering, and a little bit high level about the project that you worked on at ExpertVoice.
Sure. My name is Contonio. I've been a full stack, but primarily on the front end developer for over about 25 years. I've worked with pretty much every technology and gone through every development trend over that time. My main focus has been kind of content management or learning management systems, and that goes from everything from Drupal, WordPress, Sanity, Contentful, all of that stuff, and also building a lot of custom solutions there for content management. And prior to Codingscape, I had run my own business doing that for about 7 years. And Codingscape really attracted me in terms of its focus on just building great client applications and custom solutions for people like ExpertVoice. And on the Shopify side, I, like Adam mentioned, kind of started from the beginning with a couple other people at Codingscape and proposed a couple solutions. We can get into this later, but we kind of tested an idea in a very quick way, and then once that idea was kind of proven, we went and built a more kind of public-facing application for ExpertVoice and Shopify.
I love it. We're going to come back to a couple of these threads, but I can't continue without acknowledging, Jay, that you and I have a shared history with education technology and content management systems. And there is a link. We are going to talk a little bit about headless resources or headless software, because this is super relevant. But first, Adam, can you tell us a little bit about, unpack a little bit more of the problem you all are trying to solve? What is it that you don't seem to be a stranger to Shopify or to the e-commerce experience? So what specifically brought you to Codingscape to try to solve?
Cool. Yeah. So as you can imagine, with all of our clients, a big part of the data we're trying to access and report on and share back with our clients is like, what orders are the experts on our platform ordering on their site? How often are they using it? What products are they buying? And historically, a lot of that had been handled by like old JavaScript like tracking scripts. And those tracking, like we'd give them, here's a snippet of JavaScript, put this on your site, change out all these variables to get it working, make sure it's testing and firing right. And that takes a lot of technical resources, which a lot of our clients just didn't have. And then on top of that, over the years, browser security's changed, tracking's harder, JavaScript tracking on the client side is harder. So we've just kind of seen the accuracy of that kind of reporting drift over the last 3 to 5 years. So that brought us to kind of Shopify being the biggest market share, kind of going in and saying, like, how can we do this better? Shopify has a great development ecosystem. Documentation is super detailed and public, easy to test on, easy to spin up like development environments. Mm-hmm. So it made a lot of sense to start there. And we were able to kind of build an app that we could directly access that data from like a server to server like stance and get around a lot of that network browser security issues to keep the data accurate.
Fascinating. So it's market share, usability, modern integration, maybe? Seems kind of like a buzzword, but if many different clients of yours need to kind of upscale or modernize their solutions, it sounds like Shopify was a really good option then. And you are now kind of like the connector of all of those pieces for many different clients leveraging that technology. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. And like getting back, for Shopify, over the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of clients migrating to Shopify because it's so easy to develop within. and getting off some of the older systems and older e-commerce platforms.
Yeah, so that's what I want to get into, because I think word on the street is, and most people know the name, and it's like brand recognition. But for some companies, or especially startup and scale up, some folks might be hesitant to go with just the big brand, right? And look for other options. But I think I would love to learn more from you, Adam and Jay. What is it from a developer perspective that makes it really easy or interesting?
Sure. I can start, Adam, if you want. On the developer side, the documentation is just top notch. It's obvious that Shopify has a kind of a developer relations team, just focused on developers as like a customer. So getting started is super simple. They have built-in integrations with services like AWS or Google PubSub, things like that. Like literally one click to set something up to get communication going between your apps. And they use just modern frameworks, the modern development approach to building things. So anyone that's been working in this field for even 2 years could get started pretty quickly building something custom using their tools, where I think that's pretty rare for other e-commerce solutions. Some are pretty legacy, and you really have to like dig to find the documentation on that. There aren't a ton of developers with the experience of those tools, so it's kind of hard to staff up for those things. So that's also a huge benefit for Shopify.
Yeah, documentation. I think another nod to educators and education technology. In my experience, especially with startups, folks don't have time to document their practices or how they might onboard other team members to their work. But I think this is an example of where really good quality documentation actually helps scale the usefulness of a solution and helps, in this case, many different clients and client connectors, like an ExpertVoice who's bringing lots of different products for lots of different audiences. Just helps you solve that better, faster, more accurately, better quality with that documentation. Adam, I want to hear, you nodded to a little bit of a proof of concept. And so I'd love for you to kick us off on a little discussion around why that POC was important. And then Jay, maybe fill in a little bit about, as a key developer on this, what was attractive to you about that proof of concept.
Cool, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for us, we went into this without really knowing how we wanted to approach it. So the proof of concept was really important for us to really validate the different ways we could have done this integration to get that data, to make sure it was accurate, and being able to do a very, I think we're able to spin up a proof of concept in less than a week and get it deployed onto some of our client sites like in a day really helped out with that. And that's another kind of a benefit of Shopify. There are very simple tools for like a brand to install like a beta app that isn't in the App Store and everything else, just with a few clicks and just giving them instructions.
In a day.
Yeah.
Wild. All right, Jay, talk to me about it from your perspective. What does it take to create a proof of concept? Why was that important? From that developer perspective, for you, I know, Adam, you're both business and developer minded, but Jay, talk to us about your side of that experience.
Sure. Yeah, for the POC, it was pretty easy because you didn't have to worry about the user experience as much. Adam kind of helped each store install the solution. So it was really just working on the core logic of the application, getting communication from Shopify to ExpertVoice, and so that they could like validate the process on their side. ExpertVoice's side. And so that made things pretty easy. It took a little, Shopify has kind of different levels of applications you can develop. So there's like a custom app, which belongs to, if I'm remembering correctly, belongs to the store. And then there's kind of the public app, which is the larger, public facing, available in the App Store kind of solution. So using that custom app was super handy to just kind of get going.
Love that. And of course, their documentation helped, right? So you could turn it around really quickly because they basically had a roadmap for you.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of documentation, lots of community support, just like when there were questions. And there also, the AWS integrations are already pretty heavily built into the Shopify ecosystem, so that made it very quick.
Yeah, it's like the best, it sounds like the best off the shelf, like just get started and do it experience. It's awesome. I want to open up a conversation about these headless systems. I know from my experience in education technology and also a lot of like digital and content management systems, headless systems can be a really attractive option. But I'd love for you, Jay, to explain why that was relevant in this context and maybe start with, what does headless mean? It's not exactly a chicken running around with no head, but talk to us through it.
Yeah. So just the basic concept of headless being like there's a provider for the data, right? Like Shopify provides the data, but they don't have to provide the user experience. They don't have to provide UI. You can tailor that to your brand. You can, generically, you can make whatever you want for the front end, and then work, communicate using APIs with a back end. So Shopify, for example, the public app is actually an app that ExpertVoice owns. It's code that we developed for them, but it is using some Shopify items like different UI components so that the interface kind of blends in with the rest of the Shopify, the Shopify experience. But the benefit of that is that ExpertVoice can deploy that code without having to go through Shopify. ExpertVoice can edit it, change it, tailor it to what they want without relying on like specific views or specific requirements on the Shopify side. So to give an example of like a classic content management system, you've got Drupal, right? Drupal's huge. It powers pretty much every government site now, but developing with Drupal is pretty difficult classically. They've since added a lot of headless functionality like content APIs and things like that, so you can build like custom solutions using the Drupal content management system. But in general, it's still pretty tied to your templates, your views, your user experience is very dictated by like the architecture of Drupal and the features of Drupal, and it's very limiting. Where a headless approach is like for your, it's great for branded products because then they can have full control over it. So it's like a back end as a service type of product. So you can envision like Shopify being the back end as a service. It's it'll provide your content for your products. It'll provide like a checkout experience. But you can customize all of that. And if you don't want to use them to host the content of the products, they allow that as well. There's like headless Shopify where you can build a store experience where all of your content and products are in some other system. And then render that out as a custom e-commerce store, you know, big branded, beautiful website, and then use Shopify as kind of the checkout experience and the cart experience and things like that, to like truly build something custom. So,
Yeah. It
I can
sounds
get
like,
into learning management as well if you want.
well, I think the through line in that definition is it's what enables customization at scale. So it gives you, I always like to think of like a buffet. It has all of those core ingredients, but then you can plate it and present it and curate it and structure it in the way that makes sense for your brand or your company or the scope of your work. So I love it. It was something that I learned about not too long ago when, you know, we were working on a project, and it's not limited to education technology or content management. It even presents itself, as we could see here, in e-commerce. But Adam, I'm curious, talk us through like that. Why is that headless opportunity or the option to customize at scale so important for ExpertVoice? Give us a little more like context.
So from the headless aspect, it's not super relevant to how we are using this, but we definitely have clients that are building their Shopify in that sense. Shopify on a whole offers a very kind of built out foundational platform for them to leverage order processing, catalog management, all the reporting around it, but still, like to Jay's point, building their own custom skin and site on top of that.
Mm-hmm. So it's more the diversity of clients that you have and their different kind of expectations or requirements that made this an attractive option then for you.
Yeah. And that's kind of like going back to that earlier point where like the old way of doing these scripts with like a JavaScript snippet doesn't work very well in like a headless sense for Shopify because that whole front end is built completely differently. But tying into the data from the back end through an API is more standardized across the Shopify different sites.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is what's leading to that modern application development, right? Mm-hmm. So Shopify could be like the mad partner for mad projects.
Yeah. And you can, for the ExpertVoice situation, like the headless part to me would be that, like the deployment angle, right? The ExpertVoice app isn't something that ExpertVoice has to deploy on Shopify's servers, right? Where a lot of other solutions, you know, you can think of like if anyone's ever shipped a SharePoint application or anything like that, you know, you usually have to package it up, like go to some like legacy looking form, upload it, version it, you know, deploy it. A pretty like painful process, especially if you're like, you know, working with version control and all of that, where, you know, ExpertVoice owns the code. Like I said, like it's running on servers that they own and Shopify is just kind of rendering it. So that's, but as a user, you'd have no idea. You use the app and you think it's just like part of Shopify. And it looks like Shopify. It's fast like Shopify. But it's kind of like secretly not Shopify at all that you're, you know, clicking around. So it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. You're really making a case there. I'm curious, Adam, let's go back to something that you mentioned earlier in the partnership. Jay and team presented several different options that you were then able to pick from. Tell us a little bit about what that did for you as a client partner and what you learned from kind of this, let's go back to the buffet. Like, what did you get from all of those options and why was that valuable for you?
Well, yeah, it was helpful to give us kind of like visibility as with us not being Shopify experts, like on a development sense, like we've used it a lot with clients, but we didn't know the ins and outs of the APIs and capabilities. So getting to see this list of like, here are 5 different approaches we can take. Here are the benefits of each. Here's why this one makes sense versus this one. Then let us kind of decide which approach we wanted to take based on like what were our top priorities, with like data accuracy being a top priority and like ease of installation being a top priority. we kind of ended up where we were at.
I love that. I'm a big fan of competitive analyses or like comparison charts, and then you can make really informed decisions, and you have a better idea about what risks you're going to have to manage compared to the priorities that are really driving a particular decision. So I love that approach too. Awesome. Speaking of learning, let's jump into some insights in learning. I'd love to know, Adam, again, you're in this e-commerce space. You've been at ExpertVoice for some time. Talk to me about something that you learned along the way that was new.
I guess with this, I definitely learned about the API capabilities of Shopify, which I never had dug into before, which was very good to get my head around and interesting and kind of enlightening of like all the things we can do, especially as we think in the future of other apps we can build. And that was super helpful to me. I also kind of learned so as part of the process, we build the app, but then Shopify has an app store to get things published in for people to come and install from. I never really understood that process, so I got to learn that whole side of it. And it also kind of enlightened me to the level of kind of excellence Shopify requires for these apps. Like historically, I always thought it was kind of a free-for-all. Like anyone can make an app and publish it. And it kind of worried me at times that like there's all these apps, like I thought it was just like Wild West there. But we built the app and we went to actually publish it, and it was a pretty extensive process. And the team at Shopify like wanted to see the data end to end. They wanted to see how we were storing the data. They wanted to see all of our security certificates and make sure we were just up to speed on everything. And it was a lot more work than I expected, but it was also kind of enlightening for the Shopify side.
Gives a lot of credibility, I think, when you see that rigor. Yet, as you mentioned, on the shopping side of it, it's like, wow, anybody could just like put an app out there, and is this even legit? So somehow they've made it feel really seamless or seamless enough and supportive enough that quality experiences are coming out the door. But to know, especially from a developer perspective, that there is that rigor that's required to even be approved, I think provides a lot of credibility. So that's cool.
Yeah, I was excited about
that. Jay, what about you? What did you learn along the way? Something new?
To add to Adam's point on the publishing and approval process, learned that you go into those things thinking, oh boy, this is going to take a month for someone to get back to me, and Shopify was, I think, super responsive. We were, I know it was a lot of work to get that approval, but they were pretty responsive and had like a dedicated, I think it was one person or
one person.
Yeah. So just having a dedicated kind of support there is pretty incredible, compared to something like shipping something in, a phone app store or something like that. You might just be denied. So that was pretty cool. And then I think as well, just learning, going through the documentation, just like learning what it takes, just like enlightening, like Adam said, the amount of work it must take to like have very good documentation that is up to date, multiple languages, multiple like programming languages, all of that, just truly a massive effort, and it must pay off for Shopify.
Yeah, my respect for Shopify has just like exponentially increased with this conversation. We are not sponsored by or paid by any means by Shopify. This is just, pure experiential knowledge, which is what I love about these conversations. There's a really interesting set of questions in the chat. Adam, did you see a financial impact? And did you maybe forecast the impact, or like, I think these are really around like finance impact and like forecasting related to the Shopify experience and how that maybe played into the decision to go with Shopify, to partner maybe with Codingscape. Talk to us a little bit about that, maybe not timeline requirement, but the financial impact.
Yeah, it's a little harder to narrow down to financial impact because the bigger picture of this project was ease of use for our clients and being able to onboard clients, get them up to speed quicker, get them on our site quicker without waiting for them to do more deeper technical integrations. So downstream, that does play a financial impact of getting clients launched faster, using the site faster, accessing experts faster. But directly, it's a lot more ease of use for them. And we saw a huge ease of use of going from being able for a client to onboard, install an app, and get it all set up within a day versus sometimes it would take 2 or 3 weeks of installing code, doing test orders, going back and forth to validate the data. So that definitely has a big downstream impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not maybe not direct, but definitely related, because speed to market, speed to onboarding either a client or an engineering team has a downstream impact on, finances and financial impact for sure. Interesting. So another question coming through: do you think e-companies with big engineering costs are a trend of the past? Because it sounds like you all are making a really good case for how quickly something could be done and how much support and documentation there is to do it well. It's an interesting tie into another question I have, but do you think big engineering costs for e-commerce companies is a trend of the past?
I'm sure all companies are always looking to save costs, and engineering is expensive. What I've seen mostly from my perspective is a lot of companies have kind of core focuses they want to build on with internal teams. These are our specialties. We want to build this. We want to own it. This is kind of our brain trust. And then they have things that they can more have packaged up and outsourced or use other agencies and things like that to help with that are not quite as much part of their core competencies. That's where I've seen it, but I'm sure every company is a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Where's your focus and your real value proposition and what makes sense to partner and outsource for?
Yeah.
Which leads to why Codingscape. So you alluded to it at the beginning, but what was the driving factor for why to bring Codingscape, into this project?
Cool. Yeah, we've worked with a lot of agencies over the years. Codingscape itself kind of stood out with kind of the top tier engineers. A lot of our agencies, there's not even a face to the engineers at them. It's you get one contact, you talk to them, and something happens and they give it back to you and it may or may not work. Codingscape was a lot different where it's you see the team, it's working directly with the engineers. Everything was completely seamless, our own engineering team almost. So here's who's working on it. And from start to finish, you're working with the same people. And that was really appealing to us.
Awesome. I love that part of humanizing the experience, the people behind the machines, which is why I love doing these talks. And we get to see real engineers like Jay talking through their real experiences. Something that's not lost on me either, even when I was formerly the client, because it was, it's a point of interest. How are these people going to work with my team? How can I trust them? How do I know that I have a real human to talk to if I have a problem, in spite of the fact that we're still all leveraging technology and speed and machines, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Here's an interesting question. There's a lot of entrepreneurs or big thinkers out there who are I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to go and start to sell a product. And they are just starting out with their idea. Maybe they have a website. They're literally in the starting phase. This is not an ExpertVoice, but maybe it's a brand you might partner with down the road, very early stage. What recommendations do you have for them about Shopify? Because they will absolutely be pointed to sell your stuff on Shopify. But what do they need to know? Engineering, expertise-wise, what advice do you have for early stage founders thinking about e-commerce?
On my side, it's just surprisingly easy to spin up a Shopify store. Like Shopify gives so many tools out of the box, so much hand-holding and guidance and like pre-built templates that you almost don't like, you don't need any engineering experience to get a Shopify store spun up, working. It's all right there already. That's kind of where I would start.
Awesome. Just do it.
Yeah.
What about you, Jay?
Yeah, agree with Adam. I think you can, people that think about the MVP strategy, right? I think you can get started, get your products on there, sell them. And if things start to work out and you start to make money, then you can kind of think about, what do I want to customize? And then it's pretty easy to either, find an engineer or work with someone like Codingscape and say, I want to customize this part of the experience, or I want to customize, this part of the reporting, things like that. So you don't have to switch systems later on after you become a success. You can just stay in one place and, become a pretty large, entity for e-commerce. So.
Awesome. Well, you've challenged me to get some products out there. I'll let you know and reach out and see how it's going. It is time for our lightning round. And these are just some fun standard questions that help us learn a little bit more about you all as humans. And so we're going to start. It's the same question for both of you. So Adam, what is your favorite insider deal experience? It could be something you've had on ExpertVoice, but when is like a time, shopping or otherwise, that you've really felt like you had the insider deal?
I'll stick with ExpertVoice since it's kind of what we do. It's the core of our business. A big fun thing with ExpertVoice is we have a lot of brands that build a lot of really cool things. And with the audiences we provide them with like expert, like ski instructors or something, they are very eager to get products in their hands before they're even on the market. So things like, oh, hey, we're going to come out with this next season, but we want to get this jacket out to these people. We want them to wear them now, get feedback now before it's even released, so we know how to better market it and get reviews and all those things. And as an employee ExpertVoice, we get access to some of those same things, which has been really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, the pre-release access, right? I love that. How about you, Jay?
I'm struggling. I don't know that I have a great insider deal experience. I think I recently signed up for a product called Harvest Hosts. That is a crazy deal to me. And you pay like a tiny annual fee, and then you're able to basically camp out on all these farms and breweries and vineyards throughout the country for free, which seems like a hidden little gem. So I found that and have been using that. So
what was the name of it
that's
again?
all I can think of. Harvest Hosts.
Harvest Hosts. That's great.
Yeah,
I have a lot of
cool.
friends, who are digital natives and just really love exploring. And that's a great insider access for them. I have a kind of nerdy developer one, even though I'm not a developer. But as a gift of being part of like product leadership on several different, new app releases, I feel exclusive to the Apple experience for like pre-developer release or, developer notes. And so I think recently, right before the text editing feature for Apple was released at large, I got the pre-release with my download. And so I felt super cool, being able to emote, react to text messages or change the font editing so that it's like exploding or, rippling or something. So these little moments, I think, of making anyone, whether it's, products in an industry or access to a farm or just that like preview and insider experience, I think is so important for brands. And these are really great examples of how they're doing that right. Next lightning round question. Adam, what or who is inspiring you these days in your craft?
That's a tough one. Try to think of stuff. My craft right now is in 9,000 directions. So I think a lot of what helps me right now is Slack and the abilities in Slack to have reminders for later and mark things as unread to come back to, and task lists of being in it, like all that. It's not really inspiring that, but it's really helps me get through the days with like so many things going on at once. We're also digging like there's a lot of AI stuff, and like digging into AI and trying to leverage that has been a fun thing to play with over the last 6 months. I think everyone's kind of doing that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. If there's a thread there, it sounds like centralizing your work in the spaces where you're doing work is in fact inspiring, because when you could do it all in the same place, then it's better. It's delightful. And also staying cutting edge with new trends and AI, wherever that's taking you and your work and your company, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's doing AI right now, and you gotta learn it and understand it.
That's right. How about you, Jay? Who or what is inspiring you these days in your craft?
Recently came across this concept, or like a hack for Apple Notes called Forever Notes. I think it's called myforevernotes.com. I'm like a habitual note taker. I'm just constantly typing down whatever is coming to my head or people are saying or whatever, but I'm pretty awful at like organizing that stuff. And it's been a true, I've like bought into this organizing system, and it's really been amazing for me. And it's, helped me with pretty much everything in life lately. So huge shout out to whoever put that together.
Awesome. I'm going to explore it. Big note taker here too. So forevernotes.com. I'm excited about learning about that. Last question. What is something that you're reading or watching for fun?
It's Halloween season, and I have an 8-year-old kid, so we're doing lots of Halloween stuff. We went last weekend and saw Nightmare Before Christmas in 3D in the theater. It was a lot of fun and a good experience. And then it feels like every one of his like kids thing that he's into has some Halloween special. If there was like a Bad Guys one or something that he had to watch last night.
I love it. I love it. Also, I'm with you. I've both got kids and also love Halloween, but Inside Out was super interesting. I thought from a development and a just designer perspective too. And there's so much from like emotion and how emotion is designed into images and the size of eyes, or really interesting. Jay, what about you? What are you watching or reading that's super fun? Uh-oh, are you muted?
I am muted. I thought I hit the button. Basketball season just started, so I am watching a lot of Celtics games and Blazer games. One of them wins all the time, and one of them loses all the time. So, but it's fun for me. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, baseball season hasn't quite ended, so we're still going to have fun watching the Dodgers win tonight. That's my fun. And my like spooky thread there is Only Murders in the Building. I am in love with that whole series. If you get a chance to check it out, it's super smart and creative, and yeah, it's a really good show. Not for the 8-year-old though.
Yeah.
This has been really fun. I appreciate both of your insights and learning so much about both Shopify, but also e-commerce. And huge shout out to all the folks at ExpertVoice for creating really interesting and exciting insider access. It's so fun. So many great shares that you both shared. We're getting lots of comments in the chat here for some of your favorite things, which is also one of my favorite things, bringing the human experience to life for all this technology that we use all the time. So with that, I'm going to turn to our closing remarks, of course. If anyone is curious about how to learn more about your own technology or get a tech review or even explore some opportunities for your own upcoming tech solutions, reach out to us. We've got case studies, reports, guides, and a how to work with outsourced teams handout that you could print if you wanted to. Come to codingscape.com and you can access all of our content and speak with humans who actually do the work when you reach out through our contact form. We're currently offering, like I said, technical audits, product roadmaps, and even reviews with our CTO. If you have any questions about your technology, reach out, we will talk, and we will give you some great expert advice. Until next time, we hope you all have a lovely Halloween and join us again for another live session.